I'm Aaron Weintraub. Welcome to this conversation with Peace at Home Parenting Solutions founder and president Ruth Freeman and senior director at OMD, Chris Williams, who is also a father and a member of several employee resource groups. Chris, we're grateful to have you here today for this conversation.
Thanks for having me on. Glad to do it.
Well, so let's start with, maybe you could tell us just a little bit about what the different groups, the ERGs that you've been part of, what they are, and what you've been working on over the last few months.
Sure. So yes, I'm a sort of active member across two of our ERGs. The first one that I joined here at Omnicom Media Group was our Black Leadership Network. That was one of the first ERGs that rolled out. So I'm involved in that ERG as a member. Whereas on the Working Parents Network, that's one that I obviously joined when I became a parent about almost 2 years ago. And as of last spring, 2021, I've been part of that team in terms of a leadership role, so part of our leadership team on the Working Parents Network at Omnicom Media Group.
Actually, Chris, I have a quick question before Aaron has his additional questions. What percentage of that that Working Parent Network that you're part of are fathers who identify as fathers, and what percent are mothers? And maybe there's a conversation here about gender identity that maybe I don't understand also.
That's a great question. I would have to double check on the exact numbers. I think just anecdotally, I can say we probably have a bit more moms in terms of members across our Working Parents Network. That's possibly just reflective of our workforce. But I think generally our workforce is pretty balanced across gender lines. But yeah, definitely we have many active dads as well, eager dads trying to do the best that they can in any stage of parenting that they're in. So sort of pride myself as being one of those. And yeah, our leadership network is comprised of nine people who work in all kinds of different roles at Omnicom Media Group. And yeah, right now we're just sort of one bigger team across the US. Some of us are based on the West Coast, some of us are in Chicago, and several of us are in New York City. So yeah, I'm part of the 9, and we do what we can to sort of keep our initiatives going, keep our members and the community engaged. And yeah, similarly on our Black Leadership Network, there's obviously different focus there. But yeah, it's just another great way of building community, connecting with other coworkers on a shared topic or a shared identity as an employee. And yeah, I really think it's been great in terms of yeah, just pushing our overall agency focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. A lot of the initiatives are kind of spearheaded by our ERGs. So there are others beyond the 2 I just mentioned as well that are focusing on great initiatives as well.
Thanks.
What are some of the specific initiatives or goals that the groups that you're part of are working towards right now?
Especially with regard to the parenting piece.
Yeah, I'll speak a bit more to the Working Parent Network. That's where I'm most active and have this sort of leadership role. But yeah, we have, one of our main pillars is on that community aspect that I just mentioned, being able to connect with other parents, sharing experiences. Obviously, parenting is dynamic. So you might have a different focus when you're in your early years, infant, toddler years versus school-age kids versus teenage kids versus those who might have already, gone on to college. So obviously we have representation of all of those stages across the WPN or Working Parents Network. So yeah, a big part of it is community, making other parents also feel like they supported, they're not the only ones, right? I think working at an advertising agency, often, I think even as outsiders, many people know it's a fast moving industry that we're in. There's a lot of demands coming from the various clients that we work with. It's fast paced. And that I think if I reflect back on my early career, I always thought of how are these people doing it who are parenting as well? I'm junior in my role, still learning, rewind 10 years back previous to now. And it's always hard for me to understand, is this a career where I can thrive in both, right? Like being a parent and also, working in an advertising and media profession. So, I think that's what we try to enable and make it clear to our members that it is very possible to do both. It's not always easy, but there are ways in which we can support each other. So that's just one like sort of core pillar that we have. Another one is around actual resources, right? So yes, it's great to have a community of people who are in maybe a similar situation, shared interests, shared responsibilities as parents. But what can we do to not only support ourselves amongst ourselves, but to advocate, to our agency leadership and to the company as to what resources we maybe need to tweak, what are ways in which we can just enhance the experience of those who are parents working at an agency. And I think obviously those are two dynamics I mentioned before, working at an agency, being a parent. I think a lot of it was compounded then also by the pandemic of, parents, I think, often had sort of drew the shortest stick, right, in terms of having to balance it all, right? My daughter arrived in August 2020. So I think to me it was a bit of a blessing. Maybe, didn't maybe seem like it at the time, but, the pandemic's been crazy. It's had obviously a huge negative impact, but reflecting back on it, I was actually somewhat thankful to be able to spend as much time with my daughter as I could, being at home more. So even if I was working at here or there, I could maybe take a break, help my wife out, and yeah, some of those advantages. But yeah, coming back to the topic, so the other part of it is around resources, and that's part of how we, started to partner with Peace at Home late last year. Was what can we sort of bring to the table to support our parents on an ongoing basis across a variety of different need states, be it around topics of coping with the pressures of the pandemic, or your sort of, maybe more normal pressures of being a parent, and what can that look like at different stages. So we host all sorts of meetings. I mean, generally we have like a monthly meeting, which we've termed circle time. So think of it sort of as like in a daycare, start get together in our circle virtually, really. And we'll have programming for that each month, and it will differ by topic. Sometimes we have crossover events with our other ERGs as well. Right, so sometimes there'll be a focus potentially in Black History Month, where we'll partner with our Black Leadership Network, or during Hispanic Heritage Month, partnering with our LHLN on those initiatives. All depends, but it's really about bringing value to the community of parents at Omnicom Media Group, and a lot of that just ties back to resources, benefits, and also advocating for improvements where needed.
I think that Peace at Home delivered a session that was co-sponsored by the Working Parent Network and the Black Leadership Network recently. Is that correct?
Yes, I have to admit I may have missed that session myself, but yes, and we actually, we've had several where we brought in Peace at Home to sort of be part of a specific topic.
Have you been able to attend any of the specific Peace at Home meetings that we've done?
Yes. We hosted one, I believe it was in April. Where we spoke. I'm trying to remember the topic now. You put me on the spot. But yeah,
we might have talked about mental health essentials for parents.
Yes, actually that was the topic. So Mental Health Awareness Month. And that was a topic of choice. Again, coming back to the impacts of the pandemic, we know that parents have disproportionately been impacted by some of these effects. School-aged kids having obviously more mental health crises, than before, for all sorts of reasons, but a lot of them tied back to the pandemic. And the anxieties and stressors that have come with it. So yeah, that was an example of where we partnered with Peace at Home to bring in sort of a subject matter expert, have a bit of a roundtable discussion, and then of course have like our members engage in some breakout rooms as well to talk about maybe their more personal story or personal experience for the topic. But yeah, it's definitely been a great way to partner with you all.
So Aaron, I know you have some more questions, but once I listen to things, I always come up with more questions. So Chris, do you have any specific challenges with your 2-year-old that you want to tell us about that we can talk about today, and you can use this to gain something from Peace at Home today?
Sure. Yes. I mean, right now I'm basically at the stage where we're going to embark on potty training. So on that topic, actually, this is another example of community within our Working Parents Network. We have a bit of a chat going on for across the others that are in a similar stage as I am now, sort of sharing tips and tricks on what work with them, and even just like celebrating recent milestones on the potty training journey. But yeah, that's one I'm close to beginning, so we haven't yet like gone for it, but we have a family trip coming up, and then I think after that we'll have a bit of time in a more normal setting where we're gonna try to go about that. So yeah, any tips you have, I'm all ears.
Well, actually, Chris, I'm going to try to connect you with a particular series of classes about potty training. And what's interesting about it is that the teacher talks about some signs that the child is ready. So for example, if the child sort of helps with their care, if they sort of pull their pants on or help you, get their shirt on, if they start to be interested in helping with their self-care, that's one of the ways we know that they're beginning to be ready. But the teacher also talks about parents being ready. And that's a whole other set of capacities, I would say. And one of those is a period of intense time, a short period of time for a matter of weeks, where you can focus a lot on this issue consistently, as opposed to just once in a while. And that's one perspective on potty training. Aaron, do you have any other thoughts about twos and potty training? Because Aaron has worked with young children extensively, and he had his own young children.
Yeah, Chris, I would just as a word of encouragement, speak as a parent, not as an expert, to say that my son was in his, late 2s, 3, getting to an upper end of when I felt like it was good to get started and hadn't shown any interest. And then I spoke with one of our experts, Dr. Joanne Robinson, who she recommended a book, and I bought it. I didn't even have time to read the introduction, because after doing what she said to do, my son was completely sleeping through the night, completely dry within less than 48 hours. It was amazing, remarkable. And there's very few other areas that, I know that wouldn't be that way for every parent. And there's very few other areas that we support that have such a quick, immediate fix, but it was a real breakthrough moment for me, and in the understanding of the power of good parent. I'm a guy who read a lot about it. I'm capable of learning things. I feel relatively emotionally intelligent, but what I needed was to ask for help and then listen to that advice. And it wasn't something that I was able to figure out on my own because I was too close to it. And I swear, 48 hours, it was dry as can be. So,
but he was older than your daughter. His son was older than your daughter. However, Chris, one thing you might want to do is watch this. It's a little series of 1 or 2 little quick recorded classes, and we'll try to get them to you. And I would watch them before you start anything. I would just watch them and get the main ideas and see if you feel like it's the right time.
Yeah, it's actually on my radar, so I don't think you need to send it to me. I know where to find it in the library, and it's just because, to your point before about the dynamic between the parents being ready. I'm on the ready side. My wife is on the almost ready side. So I figured once we get to the ready side on both ends, I will dive into that video and keep it fresh in mind, rather than, it's been on my radar for months, but yeah.
You bring up an important point of both parents getting on the same page, which as children grow becomes a more complex idea. And it's great that you're willing to kind of look at that and connect. And actually, I think that someone from your group told me that we might actually be bringing some live potty training support groups to OMG, which it's really fun because, and you're already doing it. You have your own support group, and actually, we probably could just set it up that that support group, gets a facilitator, and Dr. Joanne Robinson may be the one. That's her thing.
Yeah. So it's actually that same little sub chat group that we've had within the network that sparked the idea of like, hey, let's use this as a topic, because it seems to, I definitely have several folks engaged on it, and again, won't be relevant for all parents, but for those that are at that stage, I think they'll be leaning in.
Yeah. It's super relevant. I'm sorry, Aaron, do you have any other questions? I have all these questions.
I do, yeah. So Chris, it's hard to find a workplace that doesn't talk about the importance of supporting parents and supporting working parents and families. And but it sounds like you're at an office that really has taken material steps to walk the talk. What advice, if any, would you give to somebody who might be listening to this at a company who is looking for how to move forward with some material support for parents in the way that it sounds like your working parents groups and ERGs have done? How would they get started?
Yeah, I mean, I think a great way to do so is by setting up something like an ERG or a committee, because if it's just yourself within a company, or if it's only like a top-down initiative, I think it's only going to get so far. But if you're building this into your sort of structure of the company, of having hand raisers or people who can sort of help further this initiative because they're passionate about it or because it directly relates to them, I definitely see that that's worked really well for us at Omnicom Media Group in terms of, again, the ERGs really spearheading a lot of the initiatives and topics that all fall under the umbrella of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So again, we as a Working Parents Network, we focus on it from a sort of parenting perspective. But I think, yeah, you can sort of start, whether they call it an ERG or it's an internal committee, or it's potentially someone within the HR team that's taking on this responsibility. I think it sort of starts there, and then just sort of creating an open invitation for others to start, being part of that group, that initiative. I think is a great way to start things. But then I think, yeah, from there, there's obviously other focus that needs to go into it to sustain that movement. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think we've all been hearing a lot about how more difficult it's been for many companies to retain their workforce. How many parents at the other end are also reluctant to come back to working, for those that have taken a break during the pandemic, partially because they needed to for childcare purposes. So at the end of the day, if you're an employer and you truly value, for most companies, it will be their number one assets, which is their people, then you want to make sure that those people, stick around, develop, grow with you as the company grows. And if that's the case, then enabling a working environment where they feel supported, whether they're, a parent or of a certain ethnic group, race, or of a certain sexual orientation, all that will just go a long way if they feel like that's embraced, that's encouraged, or supported in certain ways.
Chris, we've come to think of being a parent as an intersectionality in the corporate world, and you are a parent and a person of color and a father, specifically. How would you say your company is doing in supporting the parents who have all those intersectionalities, and what do you wish you could add on, or what do you feel like could be improved, or how do you think they're doing it? How well do you think they're doing it, and what do you think could be improved?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, they're doing a great job. I keep coming back to the same topic, but again, our ERGs really enable that crossover well. And I think as of last year, we've also been really embracing that intersectionality and trying to partner between each other as separate ERGs, right? Because there's natural crossover on several topics. Another ERG that we have, that's the newest one that was formed, is our Emerging Professionals Network. So those that are in the earlier stages of the career. So this is not an event that we've had yet, but coming back to the point I made earlier around being at that earlier stage of your career, and trying to envision what the long-term trajectory can be career-wise, and then coupling that with your expectations of parenting. It's another way, like, how are we going to try to connect on a shared topic, right? Parenting in this profession, and as a young professional looking ahead, maybe having a sort of roundtable discussion. It's a way to do it. So yeah, I mean, it comes back again, I think, to finding the ERGs that you want to be a part of. Of course, you can be part of all of them. It's open door. So there's no qualifications that need to be met. You can join as an ally, you can join as a member, you can be a hand raiser to be active as a leader or across specific initiatives within an ERG. But that just enables you to sort of reflect or build on your own intersectionality. I'd say, beyond that, I think our company is really good in terms of giving us that space and encouraging sort of an entrepreneurial spirit, I think, across the board. So when it comes to things like diversity and inclusion, again, we're all encouraged to contribute where we can. And if that's a part of being part of an ERG, then that's one way. Other ways you can, of course, we're a large agency too, so it's a good chance that you could find someone else just by your way of your regular work day that might be in a similar situation or have a similar background as yourself, with who you can connect. So
and your working parent network was successful in influencing your leadership to bring peace at home parenting to the parents at Omnicom, and it came out of your
yeah, exactly. So that ties back again to our the pillar of focus that we have on resources and advocacy for us as parents at the agency, right? So part of that is bringing in partners like yourself. Part of it is sort of helping parents at certain stages better navigate the benefits that are at their disposal. That's not always easy if it's your first go around. Part of it may even be on the benefits themselves, right? So as a parent, we've recently expanded the amount of free time that one gets. Like, I remember when I first started at the agency, it was very different. I've been with the agency 10 plus years, and fathers in the past, I think all there was 2 weeks off after birth, and anything beyond that, you'd have to dip into your PTO. So that's changed, right? Now there's, I think, just more sensible time off for not just birth-giving mothers, but also fathers, and that's huge, right? I mean, those early stages are so important. That's time you don't get back. So it's all those things too, right? About us reevaluating as we continue, right? What are the needs for us as parents? Where are we doing well in terms of a company that's supportive, and where do we still need to work on improvements?
Do you have a kind of wish list? Like, I wish my company would, this is my fantasy, this is what I would love. Is there anything that you sort of have in your mind, or that the group has talked about that you'd like to strive for parents?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, I think so another background of mine is that I grew up in Europe, and I grew up under very different circumstances of what parental leave looks like. So more specifically, I grew up in Austria, where mothers take up to 2 years off from work, right? And not at 100% pay, to be fair, but it's not like you're losing benefits. I mean, there's a whole other conversation about healthcare benefits versus universal healthcare. But yeah, I mean, I think again, yes, we have better circumstances now, better benefits in terms of parents having time off following the birth of a new child. I do think that should and could be more. But part of that is a company specific benefit. But I think as a country here in the US, it's just quite, yeah, quite backwards, I would say, and especially compared to other countries as to how we value the upbringing of our kids. And that starts with how much time new parents can get after that, yeah, birth or adoption, and that bonding that's so crucial.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we're experts, so you know better than I do how important, especially those first 2 years of life are. And yeah, lots to be said of like parents playing the major role in shaping those 2 years, right?
Absolutely. This has been really helpful. I love hearing your voice and your perspective as a dad. Aaron, are there any other questions, or I think we.
Yeah, you're very thorough, Chris. I appreciate your responses, and it was nice to hear what being supported as a working parent feels like from that side of things. So thank you for this.
Sure, no problem. Happy to do it. Sorry I couldn't be joined by the other panelists maybe today, but virtually we will.